Morgan Dana Harrington was born on July 24, 1989, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Daughter of Jill and Dan Harrington, Morgan also had another brother named Alex. Morgan loved animals, art, music, and dreamed of becoming a teacher. She finished school early. According to her teachers, she was among the best students in her class. People who knew her said that she was a very smart and kind girl. In 2007, aged 18, Morgan entered Virginia State University, known as Virginia Tech, where she majored in education. This university is in Blacksburg, a city 2 hours away from Morgan's parents' house, which allowed her to see her parents frequently. Morgan shared an apartment off the college campus with a roommate. Despite living in another city, Morgan was very attached to her parents and brother, and insisted on visiting them every week, and according to her mother, she called them every day. Morgan worked as a children's counselor at Easter Seals Camp. This camp takes in children who have been victims of domestic violence to help them overcome their traumas. On the night of October 17, 2009, she and 3 other friends drove to the John Paul Jones Arena at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville to see Metallica perform. According to friends, Morgan was very excited and looking forward to the show. She even left the ticket hanging on the refrigerator door for 6 months, waiting for the long-awaited opportunity to see her favorite band perform. During the opening performance, Morgan left her friends to go to the bathroom. Some time passed, and her friends called her to find out why she was taking so long, as the show was about to start. This was around 8:48 p.m. Morgan told them that she was trapped outside the arena. It is not known exactly how or why she left the arena, but it is known that the security guards didn't allow her to enter again. The arena had a policy that after exiting, one was not allowed to return inside. Morgan told her friends not to worry, because she would catch a ride to Harrisonburg, a town an hour away from where she was staying, so she wouldn't have to wait outside alone all night. Morgan's friend then agreed and continued to enjoy the show. Witnesses said they saw the girl around 9 p.m. near the entrance hall, and then again, around 9:30 p.m., hitchhiking on a nearby bridge. There were also 2 witnesses who claimed to have seen her around the same time, appearing to be disoriented and very cold. Apparently, Morgan had consumed alcohol and had also forgotten her jacket inside the arena, and it was very cold that night. That was the last time Morgan Dana Harrington was seen alive. The next day, the young woman would visit her parents, Jill and Dan. Her father had agreed to help her study for the math exam she would have the following week. But Morgan didn't show up and wasn't answering messages and calls either. Morgan's parents got in touch with the friend she was with the night before, and to their dismay, they discovered that they had separated during the show, and no one else knew where she was. On October 18, 2009, the day after her disappearance, Morgan's bag was found at around 7 a.m. in a grassy area near the university's football field. According to the police, in Morgan's bag were her student ID, driver's license, credit card, a canteen, and her dad's cell phone. It turned out later that the place where her bag was found was used as a stop by taxi drivers when big events took place. Morgan's disappearance quickly reverberated and made news. Morgan's friends, who were with her that night, began to receive insults from people who said that they were to blame for her disappearance, for not telling the girl's parents what had happened on the night of the show, and also informing them that she wasn't answering her cell phone. In response to these people, Morgan's parents have said in interviews that the girl's friends were not at fault. They said they wished they had reported her missing sooner, but they didn't believe it would change much, as Morgan was no longer a child and the Amber Alert wouldn't be triggered by her. So it probably wouldn't make a difference, and asked people to stop the insults and worry more about helping to find her. From that moment, intense searches began and around 2,000 people came together to help, including friends and family. They put out posters and the police checked security cameras and looked all over the area, but nothing was found. 3 weeks after Morgan disappeared, a student found a bloody Panther shirt lying in a bush in front of his apartment building. The boy's apartment was located near the arena, and the student, knowing of Morgan's disappearance, decided to call the police. After analysis, it was confirmed that that shirt was the same one Morgan wore on the night of her disappearance. On the shirt were found the DNA of Morgan and one other person who could not be identified. On January 26, 2010, 3 months later, a farmer was driving through his farmland on his tractor when he spotted what appeared to be human remains. At first, he thought it could be an animal, but when he got closer, he realized that it was a human skeleton. There were no shoes, clothes, or jewelry around, so the farmer, who already knew about Morgan's disappearance, began to think it might be her. The 700-acre farm known as Anchorage Farm is located 16 kilometers from the area where the show took place. The remains were found in a remote area of the farm, and the nearest access to the site was 2 miles away, with no movement of people. The farmer just didn't find the body before, because in October it snowed in Virginia, making it difficult for the body to be found. So in January, when the weather was milder, it could be spotted. After analysis, authorities confirmed that the remains actually belonged to Morgan Dana Harrington. Dan, Morgan's father, learned that his daughter's body was found in the worst possible way. He received a call at his home from a reporter, asking what he thought of the body that was found. Dan, who still hadn't been notified, contacted the police to find out what was going on, and much to his dismay, the police confirmed that the remains were those of his missing daughter. According to coroner's analysis, Morgan's bones were shattered. She had suffered a fracture on the left arm, had 2 broken ribs, and a severe skull fracture. Morgan's mother, Jill, later confirmed that her daughter suffered a very violent attack, and that she was also a victim of forced intercourse before she was killed. Jill, Dan, and Morgan's brother Alex, very shaken by the news, tried to find some peace in that difficult moment and visited the farm where the girl's body was found. The crime left many residents of the region fearful. The idea that a serial killer could be living and operating nearby was frightening. People were terrified. In 2010, forensic tests were able to link the DNA found in the Panther t-shirt that Morgan was wearing the night of her disappearance to a cold case that took place in 2005 in a nearby town called Fairfax. At the time, a girl who was identified only with the initials R and G was brutally beaten and victim of forced intercourse in that city. She was 26 years old at the time of the crime. According to her testimony, on September 24, 2005, she was returning from a market at around 8:30 p.m. When she was about to enter her house, she was surprised and grabbed from behind by a man. This man took her to a deserted park near her neighborhood. According to her, the man threw her head against the ground and then punched her in the face. She screamed for help, but the man said he would kill her if she screamed again. The man also said that she needed to let him do whatever he wanted to, and then he would let her go. At some point, she said she lost consciousness, and when she recovered it, she saw the headlights of an approaching car. Her attacker fled, leaving her there, lying on the ground. The man who got out of the car ran to help her, and then tried to find the attacker, but without success. Then he called the ambulance and waited with her until they arrived. After examinations, it was found that the girl had DNA on her nails, but that DNA didn't match any one registered in the police database. The girl even gave the description of her attacker to the police. He was a black man, approximately 180 meters tall and about 90 kilograms, with short hair and a beard and mustache. The police had no idea who this man could be, but they had his DNA, which was also found on Morgan's Panther t-shirt and also on the fingernails of the girl who was victimized in 2005. Still with the help of the 2005 victim, the police were able to make a composite of what the criminal supposedly looked like. The sketch of the criminal was spread around and everyone was waiting for some information that could help. But as the police didn't find any more evidence about the aggressor, the case was closed. Terrified and traumatized, the girl decided to return her home country, India. According to her, that was the worst thing that had ever happened in her life. Her body ached a lot. She couldn't leave the house for weeks and didn't want to talk to anyone until life gradually returned to normal. James Hetfield, lead singer of Metallica, spoke out about the attacks and recorded a video where he offered a 50,000 reward on top of the 100,000 that the police had already offered for any information that could help find Morgan's killer. 5 years passed before Morgan's case could be solved, and for that, another girl had to lose her life. Guys, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the case of Hannah Elizabeth Graham, and in the end you'll understand what her connection with the case of Morgan is. Hannah was born on February 25, 1996 in Berkshire in England. She lived with her mother Susan, her father John Graham, and her brother James. In 2001, when she was 5 years old, she moved with her family to Fairfax, Virginia. Hannah was considered a very talented athlete and a great student. At age 18, she was already in college at the University of Virginia. On the night of September 12, 2014, around 11 o'clock at night, Hannah and her friends went to a party. There, after meeting another friend, Hannah and he left together to go to another party that same morning. However, Hannah was feeling very bad as she had been drinking, so she thought it was best to leave. A friend offered her a ride, but Hannah declined and said she would walk home. Around 1:30 in the morning, Hannah texted a friend saying she was lost. That was the last anyone heard from her. The next day, Hannah doesn't attend to a meeting of friends that she had arranged days before. Her friends started to worry and decided to notify Hannah's parents, who, after looking for her and not finding her, decided to report her disappearance to the police. Investigators linked Hannah's case to Morgan's case, and concern began to mount over rumors that an alleged serial killer was operating in Virginia, as I've said before. The police managed to recover several images from security cameras that had recorded Hannah's last steps during the night, and according to these images, Hannah took the following route. At midnight 45, she was seen walking alone past a bar called McBrady's. 10 minutes later, the camera captured Hannah running past the gas station, but it didn't look like there was anyone running after her. At 1:06 a.m., Hannah was seen at a pizzeria called Sal's Pizza in a mall, and at some point a man was seen following her. This man was later identified by police and said he was following the girl because she looked distressed and he wanted to make sure she was safe. Further analysis was carried out on the same recording, and investigators realized that Hannah was also being followed by another man. It was a black man with long hair and wearing light clothes. He was on the opposite side of the mall. He then crossed to the side where Hannah was and started walking behind her. Sometime later, she was seen again by the security camera of a jewelry store, but this time she was no longer alone. The same man in light clothes was with her, his arms around her shoulders. After that, they were not seen again by security cameras, but it's known that he took her to a bar called Tempo. According to witnesses from that bar, he bought her some drinks and had his arms around her shoulders the whole time. Later, Hannah was seen in an orange car with the same man, and someone could hear her saying, "I'm not getting in the car with you." At 1:20 a.m., she sent that text message to her friend saying she was lost. After that, no one saw her. On September 20, 8 days later, after analyzing the security cameras, the man who appears in the images officially became the main suspect in her disappearance. Jill, Morgan's mother, due to the repercussions of the case, found out about what happened, and that she had also been through that situation. She offered all her support to Hannah's family. Hundreds of volunteers helped Hannah's family and the police search for her. Charlottesville Police Chief Timothy Lango said he believed Hannah was still in Charlottesville or one of the 9 counties in the area. He also urged farm owners to look for her on their land. On October 18, 2014, human remains were found in an abandoned property in Albemarle, a county about 5 miles from where Morgan Harrington's remains were discovered. On October 24th, 6 days later, after analysis, the police confirmed that the body found was Hannah Graham's. That same day, her parents visited the property where she was found. Later, on November 18th, the Washington Post reported that Hannah's cause of death was homicide of undetermined origin. Sometime later, the police managed to identify the man captured by the security cameras. It was Jesse Matthew Jr., a 32-year-old nursing assistant who occasionally worked as a taxi driver. On the same night that Hannah disappeared, Jesse was seen lurking around different bars in the area, accosting various women and behaving inappropriately. Jesse's car and home were searched, and the police took several items to be examined. On September 21st, Jesse went to the Charlottesville police station and spoke briefly with the officers, saying that he would not say anything without a lawyer, and since there was nothing concrete against him, he was released. All the police could do was keep an eye on Jesse, and for a while he didn't commit any infraction. But one day, the police managed to catch him speeding, but he was so fast that he managed to disappear from the police sight. Because of this infraction, he was charged with reckless driving, and later the police were able to obtain a warrant for the arrest of Jesse for the kidnapping of Hannah. When Jesse's acquaintances learned that he was being accused of such a terrible crime, they were in shock. According to Jesse's acquaintances, he used to be very kind to people and always volunteered to help the coach of the football team he played for, and the team loved him. It was later discovered that in 2003, Jesse had been accused of abuse at a school he attended. He was expelled from the football team and school over these allegations, but was not arrested as the victim didn't pursue the allegations. About 11 months later, at another school where he studied, Jesse was once again expelled from the team and school for the same reason. However, nothing came of it. No source I could find had the information as to why Jesse wasn't charged, but by all indications, the victim didn't pursue the charges either. On September 22nd, Jesse's apartment was searched again. Several items and some clothing were taken for analysis. A day later, the police were able to gather enough evidence to arrest Jesse for Hannah's kidnapping, but the man had already withdrawn all the money from his bank account and fled. He was found a few days later recognized by a woman. Jesse was already in Texas, 2,000 kilometers away, camping on the beach, and was arrested that same day. The woman who reported him stayed where Jesse was until the police arrived to make sure he didn't run away again. The police found a map of Mexico in Jesse's car, clearly indicating that Jesse was planning to flee there. On September 29, 2014, it was reported that forensic evidence taken from the investigation into Morgan's 2009 murder matched the items taken from Jesse's apartment, and various other pieces of evidence surfaced. In 2009, the same night Morgan disappeared, Jesse was working as a taxi driver near the point where Morgan was last seen. Hannah's DNA was found in Jesse's car, and also on a pair of shorts taken from his apartment. Jesse's DNA matched the DNA found under the nails of the girl attacked in 2005, as the attacker's DNA was registered in the police database. With all this evidence, Jesse was found guilty of attacking the girl, and shortly afterwards, he was also found guilty of the first-degree murder of Hannah Graham and sentenced to death. 3 months later, he was formally charged with the kidnapping and first-degree murder of Morgan Harrington. Police believe that on the night Morgan was kidnapped, Jesse may have lured her into his cab while she was looking for a ride home. In October 2015, at the end of the trial, the girl who was attacked made a long journey from India to the US to testify against Jesse. The girl recognized him, but could not identify with 100% certainty that he was the same man who attacked her in 2005 due to the traumatic experience she went through. And also, according to her, he looked a little different since 10 years had passed. But DNA tests found on her fingernails proved it to be the same man, and so after deliberation, Jesse was sentenced to 3 life sentences. The man who helped the girl in 2005 also testified at the trial. His name is Mark Castro. According to his testimony, he was returning from a friend's house that night when he heard screams coming from the park and decided to turn around. That's when he saw the girl lying on the ground covered in blood. The girl asked for help and he left to look for the criminal, but he had already managed to escape. He also said he stayed with her until paramedics arrived on the scene. His testimony was very important, as it found out that Jesse didn't only intend to abuse her, but also to kill her. Luckily, Mark heard the noises and decided to go back to check what it was. If it weren't for that, Surely this girl would have had the same sad ending as Morgan and Hannah. Prosecutors said that if Jesse pleaded guilty to the murders of Hannah and Morgan, he would avoid the death penalty as part of a plea bargain. In March 2016, Jesse closed a plea deal, pleading guilty to 2 counts on the kidnapping and murders of Hannah and Morgan, thus avoiding the death penalty. However, he was sentenced to 4 life terms with no chance of parole. Jesse Matthew Jr. received a total of 7 consecutive life sentences. Just to be clear, he received 3 life sentences from that crime he committed in 2005 and 4 more life sentences for the murders of Morgan and Hannah. At no point did Jesse want to collaborate with the police in their investigations, so that the girl's cause of death could never be determined. On May 21, 2019, Jesse was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. He was transferred from Red Onion State Prison in Wise County, where he was serving his sentence, to Sussex 1 State Prison in Waverly for treatment. Both victims' families have been notified of the status of Jesse's transfer. Even after Jesse's arrest and conviction, authorities didn't rest. For them, Jesse may be involved in more crimes. Police believe he is responsible for the disappearances of 31-year-old Sophie May Rivera and 24-year-old Autumn Wayne Day, both missing since 2003, and also for the crime against 23-year-old Cassandra Morton, who disappeared in 2009 and her body was found in November of the same year. All these crimes seem to have the same pattern, which indicates that they were probably committed by the same person, in addition to the fact they occurred in nearby regions. After Hannah's remains were discovered and identified, students at the University of Virginia erected a memorial in her honor. Morgan's parents, Jill and Dan Harrington, created an online campaign called Help Save the Next Girl, whose objective is to teach women to protect themselves and to avoid domestic violence and other types of abuse. Jill, Morgan's mother, also released a book where she shows her perspective on the whole story. In this book, she says that the last memory she has of her daughter is a sign they made with their fingers to each other when saying goodbye, as you can see in the photo. For them, this sign means "I love you forever and ever, once more forever." Alright folks, so that's it. Thanks for watching until the end. Best wishes, and I see you next time.